Welcome to the Paper Machete.
I wanted to have something that was fashion-based this week, and I asked a friend of mine, who is kind of a legendary Chicago performance artist, to come out and read us a short story that is one of my favorites. Usually we do nonfiction here at the Paper Machete. We're a live magazine, and most of what you hear is performance art journalism. But every once in a while, you want to go into a fantasy world. So, ladies and gentlemen, give me some fiction. Dave Awl. Woo!
Before I read this, a brief contextual note. I wrote this story in 2003, originally for the Pansy Kings reunion edition of the Partly Dave Show. Now, at the time, for several years, every Thursday night, I had been going to what is Chicago's best and oldest new wave dance club night, Planet Earth, which started in 1994. So, the events that inspired this story were some things that happened at Planet Earth. So when I was writing this story, I needed a name for the fictional analog of Planet Earth. So I settled on the David Bowie song Life on Mars, which at the time seemed to me like a pleasantly quirky in-joke and a little bit obscure, but people would get it, and it had the same sort of science fictional sound. In the years since then, of course, there's been a BBC TV show and then an American knockoff of that show called Life on Mars. And now I understand there's actually a restaurant down in Logan Square called Life on Mars. So I just preface this with that to say that I actually, thought of this before any of that happened. But it reinforces actually one of the things I hate about now, which is anytime you come up with a name for anything, no matter how quirky or obscure you think you're being, someone else has already had the same idea or is just about to. And pretty much all you have to do is Google it to prove that. Well, this is called Love the Shirt. 1. The shirt. Yes, of course, I remember the shirt. You wouldn't know it to look at me now, but once upon a time, I, Rupert Rumple, used to wear the shirt, and we were often seen together in public. Oh, I know you don't want to believe this, but I have an album somewhere with clippings and photos of the two of us together. There was a time when I thought the shirt and I would be together always, and that we were destined for glorious things. 2. I'm going to let you all in on a little secret. How I first discovered the shirt. The truth is about to come out anyway, for reasons you'll hear about further on. So here it is. I actually found the shirt at a PP Farthings in Lincolnwood. Oh, stop it! I'm being deadly serious. I know people have all sorts of glamorous theories about the origin of the shirt. Everything from a serendipitous shopping trip in Soho to abandoned extraterrestrial luggage. And I know that our kind isn't supposed to even dream about setting foot in mall barns like Sears or Ward's or PP Farthings. But for precisely that reason, what nobody seems to know is that those stores always have a little club trash corner where they keep the loud, tacky disco shirts they assume only closeted 17-year-olds will be interested in. And yes, my children, it was there that I discovered the shirt. On a rack of 100% polyester atrocities, cowering between two garish kung fu dragon prints. It was hideously embarrassed, and every so often it let out a kind of piteous mew, like a lost kitten, which is what led me to it. I was immediately struck by its possibilities, and within seconds I knew I was in the presence of a real find. It managed to achieve just the right mixture of campy sci-fi glamour and tacky lava lamp charm. It was pure new wave, a spiritual throwback to the days when sartorial irony was younger, fresher, happier, and more earnest. And as I marched to the counter at Farthings, I knew it was mine, all mine. 3. Of course I wore it to Life on Mars that very night. I was feeling tired of being a drab little man nobody looked at, and with the shirt on my side, I thought I was ready to make a real splash. Life on Mars was Chicago's most distinguished new wave club night. 6 delirious hours of the B-52s, the Buzzcocks, Soft Cell, Roxy Music, Madness, and all of the David Bowie you could stand every Thursday night. It was populated by a mutant cocktail of punks, trans divas, tough chicks, shy Morrissey boys who were as terrified of the Halsted Street reindeer games as I was, and more brazenly bohemian homos who needed a freak-friendly environment in which to fly their festive flags. Of course, I'd fallen in love with it the first time I stumbled into its eccentric, elliptical orbit. I thought of it as the island of misfit toys, with a dance floor. Within 5 minutes of my arrival at Mars, I knew the shirt was a hit. Milo told me, softly and a little fearfully, that he was in awe of it. Francisco swept me onto the dance floor and wouldn't let anyone else near me for a solid half hour. Then I was danced with by a series of happy drunk women in leopard print and the occasional Morrissey boy, until at last I was surrounded by a trio of adorably tousled mod boys in skinny ties who pogoed with me to the jam in the most disturbingly erotic manner until I fled in absolute terror. At which point, I was approached by a photographer from Club Dumpster magazine who, instead of asking my advice on whom he ought to photograph, actually posed several other people around me and took my picture. But the real triumph happened later that night, when Milo, Messy Margie, Francisco, and I went out for our usual post-Mars snack at the Dayglow Diner, accompanied by Cosmic Queenie and Flaming May. Instead of being made to wait 20 minutes for a rickety little table in the middle of the restaurant, the host took one look at the shirt, lit up like a string of chili pepper Christmas lights, and said, "Love the shirt," before steering us to the large, comfortable corner booth in the back, usually reserved for members of moderately famous local bands. On our way there, a table full of shop girls in black velvet burst into applause as we passed. Even one of the busboys confessed his admiration of the shirt to me in halting English as I made my way to the powder room. Cute busboy, too. 4. I was planning to wait a few weeks before wearing the shirt to Life on Mars again, but on the following Saturday, well, something happened. Now, you must understand that I never go out on Saturdays. Thursdays at Mars is my big night out. Saturday is the night when everyone else goes out, in numbers that terrify me, to clubs where I'll never belong. I usually plan on staying in and getting some work done. So it was odd that at about 9 p.m., I found myself standing at the door of my closet, looking at the shirt, fingering it. It almost felt as if the shirt wanted me to put it on. But that was nonsense. Where would I go in it? Almost before I could complete the thought, the telephone rang. It was my old college roommate Jonathan, who for some reason wanted me to tag along on his regular Saturday night excursion to Boy Wonder. Boy Wonder was my idea of a nightmare. A huge barn full of chemical smoke and shirtless nipple ponies, dancing to that monotonous repetithud music that sounds like you're trapped inside a washing machine with an unbalanced load. Whir boom, whir boom, whir boom, whir boom. So of course I said no. Except that what I actually heard myself say into the phone was yes. It was the shirt, I realized. It wanted to go out. And who was I to stand in its way?